Good morning. I would like to ask Dr. Bunyod to give us the opening remark. Once again, good morning to everyone. Good morning. Ms. Edith Pornmisai, Ms. Ki Im R, ladies and gentlemen, and members from the health sector. I am the Deputy Director of the Nutrition Center. I am very pleased and honored to be able to join and share the meeting today. The objective of today's meeting or workshop is to disseminate the result of the nutrition sentinel surveillance for the 2023, and today we have Dr. Souphaxay Khamphanthong from the Nutrition Center who would be guiding us through these survey results and to share with you some of the interesting findings for the Nutritional Sentinel Surveillance or NSS, which will cover different results such as the prevalence of stunting, underweight, wasting, and you will see the comparison from the first round data collection and the second round and see the differences and so we hope that we would be able to share some experience and from the participants, and we also going to have the Q&A session, and we look forward to receiving some suggestions from our participants for this survey. So I believe that the time is right. So on behalf of the organizer, I would like to wish everyone who are joining us here virtually good health and great success in your work and happiness. And on that note, on behalf of the chair of the meeting, I would like to declare the official opening of this meeting or the workshop on Nutrition Sentinel Surveillance first round of 2023. And now I would like to pass the floor to Dr. Souphaxay Khamphanthong to lead the to start the presentation. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Souphaxay Khamphanthong, the Deputy Director of the Surveillance Division on behalf of the Nutrition Center, Ministry of Health. Allow me to share with you some of the results from our Nutrition Sentinel Surveillance. So today I have 5 topics to discuss with you, and the last one, the 6th one, is the plan for the second round of survey for 2023. Now, allow me to start my first topic, which is the introduction of this survey, and the second one is the objective, the third one is methodology, and fourth one is the results, and fifth one is the conclusion and proposals. Now, let me first start off with the introduction. And for the Nutrition Sentinel Surveillance, this is an early warning system that we use to monitor the nutrition status of mothers and children. The result of this surveillance will be used for the intervention and response. Yes, allow me to continue. So the result of this finding will use for the response for any emergency nutrition status, and the survey this time we collected information from 36 villages, 36 districts in 18 provinces. So essentially, one province and one district in 18 provinces. 2 districts and 2 villages in each province, apology. And this survey in 2023 was used to compare with the data that we collected in the first round in 2022. The objective of this survey is to find the trend of nutrition in communities and vulnerable locations and use this information and data for our planning and the implementation of interventions for nutrition, in particular for the high-risk area for malnutrition. Now, for my methodologies, we use the sample from 18 provinces and 2 districts. In each province, we selected a household with children under the age of 6 to 59 months, or mothers with children under the age of 6 to 59 months, and the sample size for this is 900. And for the key results compared to the result from 2022 is as follows. The first one is the data for stunting, underweight, and wasting for children under the age of 5. We see that the trend is increasing when compared to the one in 2022. From all indicators, including stunting, underweight, and wasting. Now, for the nutrition status of women in the reproductive age, we see that for underweight, the trend has slightly declined, but at the same time, for the women in the overage group, and has increased when compared to 2022. The prevalence of children who receive breastfeeding immediately 1 hour after birth, when compared to the first round in 2022, it increased 7% from 67 to 74. But when you look at the children who was exclusively breastfed for 6 months, has decreased quite tremendously compared to 2022. And the same goes for children who was exclusively bred for 1 year, also decreased almost 10%, which is a lot when compared to the data from 2022. The prevalence of children who receive high quality of food, such as minimum meal frequency, minimum dietary diversity, and minimum acceptable diet, all of these indicators dropped when compared to 2022. The causes for this may be because of the outbreak of COVID-19, and maybe that was exacerbated by the economic difficulties, and therefore that has affected the dietary status of children. Now let's see the minimum dietary diversity of women. It dropped slightly compared to 2022, but not as bad as the number for children. Now the numbers of children age 6 to 59 months who receives vitamin A supplementation, we don't see any differences. The data stay the same for both 2022 and 23. And the same goes for the warming tablets for children the age of 12 to 59 months. There is not a lot of difference here, just 1% differences. Now, the percentage of households who have access to drinking water The trend has shown some slight decrease, so from 94 to 22 to 88 in 2023. The prevalence of children who had diarrhea in the past 2 weeks, we see that this also increased 8% from 12 to 20 when compared the data from 2022 to 23. And this is a high number for children. Now, the percentage of household with food stocking, we see that the trend has decreased, especially household producing vegetables and livestock and fishery have all decreased when compared to 2022. Now, the hunger scale of household, we found that there's been an increase in the hunger scale in the medium and severe level when compared to the data of 2022, which you can see here at the medium level for 2022 was 6.5, and in the first round of 2023, this medium level increased to 11.4, and in the severe case, in 2022, it was 0.6%, and this year it was 1.2. So we can see that based on these indicators from nutrition, there have been some worrying trends, and this has been a challenge for the nutrition works, especially for stunting. And underweight, we can see that this is moving toward a worrying trend. And from this slide, there's only one indicator that has improved, which is the number of children who receive breastfed within 1 hour after birth. Otherwise, the overall indicators are either in red or yellow. And now for conclusion, we see that some of the key indicators such as stunting and underweight, we see that these indicators has increased in the negative on the negative scale, and there's not much different in the prevalence of wasting indicators. So anyway, we will try to make sure that data are collected to compare the result for the second round of 2023 to see if there is any change since then. And at the same time, the nutrition center is revising some of its manuals that would be used for the next sentinel surveillance under the support of UNICEF, which we are aiming to use during our survey in October this year. And these are the pamphlet that we produce as a result of this nutrition sentinel surveillance. We have both the Lao and English version, which you can download online, and actually we have distribute this pamphlet during our previous meeting to celebrate the National Nutrition Day. And we have both the Lao and English version. And this pamphlet includes all of the surveillance results from the first round in 2022 and the first round in 2023 to show the nutrition status of Laopedia in the previous year and show you the differences of the trends that these indicators are moving forward. Now, for the next round of survey in 2023, previously we selected 18 sites or 18 provinces. But for the next survey, we would collect from 75 sentinel site So namely in the north, we would have 29, central 31, and the southern part, we would have 15 sentinel sites. And we are now in the process of revising our manuals and guidelines for the survey. And at the same time, we're selecting the districts and villages for our next round of survey. So that's the result for our first round of sentinel surveillance for 2023, first round compared to the first round of 2022. That, ladies and gentlemen, will conclude my presentation, and I welcome any questions you may have. Thank you. That's very fast, Souphaxay. Yes, the result of the survey is just a small survey to gauge the trend. So it's unlike other research, as this is a very short research, hence the short presentation. Because we still have time, Souphaxay, can you tell us about the future plans? So what do you have in mind for the next round of survey? Because last time we had a meeting on the dissemination of the results, and we received some recommendations about, comparing the results. Do you remember those questions? Yes, future plans. Now, previously, we have organized a meeting to endorse the result of the survey, and we have had some experts who help us with the manuals for the second round of survey. And as I mentioned earlier, we have to include the number of sentinel sites from 36 to 75 in order to cover more, include more data. And in that meeting, we also had discussion with the education sector. They want to us to add activities related to, vegetables garden, but we respond to them and we told them that this is just a survey to find out about the nutrition trend, and this is not, a comprehensive research for the nutrition component. So we cannot include everything into our surveillance. We just want to see some key trends in the nutrition status. However, this time around, we would have, a more dynamic approach to this, so that we can increase the qualitative aspect of the studies, and we would have staff from the central to the regional and provincial level who would help us with the enumeration process, because as I've mentioned, we are going to increase the number of sites, and so from 36 to 75, so we would have more people to help us with the collection process, data collection process, and we are receiving supports from UNICEF to help with the selection of the villages and the districts. Oh, we received the question from the chat box. What kind of challenges that you face for the data collection, and do you think climate change has affected the nutrition status of people? That's the question from the chat box. The challenges for data collection, because we collect data from children 6 to 59 months, we did face some difficulty, especially for children that live near our neighboring countries, and most of the time, the mothers and children might not stay together at all times. But for our purposes, we wanted mothers and children who stay with each other all the time. But these provinces near the neighbors, their mothers due to the difficulty in their of their household. The mothers usually or sometimes have to cross a border to work in our neighboring countries to earn to make a living. And some of the villages and the children may stay at home, or some of them may have to move with their mothers. And the other thing is that in the past, we collect the data in March and November, and that has caused some challenges for us. And because we don't see the same person, we didn't see the same person when we try to collect the data the second time around. But this time we are adjusting our survey so that it matches with the agricultural calendar, especially to match with the seasons of harvesting. And with the support of the UNICEF, hopefully this would be better. And I want to ask you for the sentinel surveillance. At the moment, you know that LSS3 is almost completed. I wonder if the villages for sentinel surveillance are in the same cohort with the LSS3. I am not sure if they are the same because we don't have information from LSS3. But for the district, we use the same district that we used since 2019, which are the government's priority. But for the villages, we ask the provinces to select. But I don't know for sure how else they select the villages and district. But for the villages at least, but for district, they should be the same. Just want to ask one more thing. Did you use our data and compare with the information from DHIS2? Have you tried to link the two data? Yes, some of the data we try to link them together, especially for the malnutrition indicators. But for other indicators, we cannot because we need to conduct further study. But for some data that the HIS, routinely collects, such as, nutrition status like stunting, wasting, or the supplementation of vitamin A or deworming. We did see some of the data, but whether they can be compared, that's another question. But we see some of the data, but whether or not the two sets of data can be compared, we are not quite sure. And because we don't know if the HIS has routinely update their data and whether they are collected from the same site, but for our own survey, we see that, for example, in the warming survey, in the HIS, I think the number is at the level of 60 something, but for our data, our baseline is 71. So I really believe that it depends on how the data is input in DHIS2 and our survey, because DHIS2 might be using the previous form for data collection and ours was more updated. So there could be some discrepancy there. Do we have any questions from our participant? Do you have any suggestion for Dr. Souphaxay for future improvements? Yes, good morning. My name is Panisanan from Nippen project. I'd like to add a few things on this. First of all, congratulations, Dr. Souphaxay and your team for this survey. And I believe that in the future, I cannot continue to do this kind of surveillance for a very long time. But of course, if you have the budget, we can continue to do so. But because this data cannot be used as a representative data for the entire country and the sample size is very small. And that's why when you receive the results, we don't really see a lot of it. usefulness, especially how if any of these children or women can have access to our service. So for our nutrition works, I would like to suggest improve the routine monitoring works to strengthen it, because if we do so, it would help with the improvement of data collection processes, so that when we collect data, they are more accurate, and it would help with the improvement of health services at the community level. And the data would also be consistent with other researchers, and it will save time and resources for our friends and colleagues. And I think that should be the approach for the future. And even the second time around of 2023, you may be increasing the sample size. It might not be sufficient to replace other study. And then there's also a risk that you might not see the same people from the previous round of survey of 2023. When we conduct this kind of the study, we have to look in terms of, a return on investment as well, whether it is worth the investment, because you are going to use a lot of resources for this. And when you look at these nutrition status indicators, we see a lot of, worrying trends and bad, trends that are moving toward the wrong directions. I don't know, but yet we don't know if this can be indications of anything. So I would like you to, consider whether we can continue this for the long run. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pani. I just want to respond to Dr. Pani suggestion, because in this survey, after the nutrition sentinel surveillance, we will find, the problems through this survey, and then but there's not really a strong recommendations on what we need to do, because usually we only see the data of what happened, but there is no interventions at the village level. For example, interventions that for nutrition and nutrition sensitive agriculture. So it should be interesting if your findings in the future have some suggestion or recommendations for activities for nutrition and agriculture, for example. Souphaxay, what do you think? Yes, I agree with what has been said. But when we, look back at this process, how can we improve the routine monitoring process, especially for food security, nutrition? We have to also ask whether they can routinely monitor everything for us and collect the data for us, because everything for the health sector is now being concentrated in the health center, and the health center staff are being overflooded with works from all directions, and it can not be certain that they would be able to collect the data that we want all the time. But for us, for nutrition, we need to develop a nutrition standard report, and for that to materialize, we need data that can be collected and supplied to us on a monthly basis. And for that, UNICEF is providing the support for us to collect such data, and we are piloting that in Sekong and Sanyabuli in the coming months, so that we can collect data on a regular basis. But let's see how that goes, because this data will definitely be about the malnutrition indicators such as stunting, underweight, and wasting. But for food security elements, that would be difficult to collect on a routine schedule or basis. And for the recommendations that you mentioned, to have some proposal for interventions. I agree we should that because we now see the trends, so we can make some recommendation in terms of intervention on what should be added. Allow me to add a little bit, Dr. Souphaxay, for the routine monitoring system. When we say the word system, it is system, but routine monitoring is a mother and child service, and it's a comprehensive service. And there are examples where people can do that on a regular basis. So you do not have to, think that it would be impossible, because we have experts from many projects who can help with that. But because we have limited resources, we want to make sure that we use it well. And for us at the central level, if we have a good system, it will save the cost and time and resources, and we would be able to get everything. And there's no need to worry that we would be increasing work for them. But our problem at the moment is that we don't have a good system to lighten their burden. And that's it makes it difficult for them to work, because everything is still being done manually. But so if we are going to use the resource, we should use the resource to improve the system. And if you need help, I can provide some, support, because I have experience in this. In the past, I have collected the data every village and every month, and I found that there was a lot that we can do, but the problem that they face is they don't have a proper system to help them. So don't underestimate the staff at the community level or health center. But the problem is with DHS2, it's not fully connected nationwide with all of these health networks. And I'm not saying this to object DHIS2, but it's just saying that if we have the a good routine monitoring system, all the data can be supplied to DHIS2. And we can talk about this, later. And I am more than happy to present about this at the nutrition center. But it depends on whether you want to accept this. And an apology, if I sound like I am against you, I'm just trying to find a solution for us all, because we have limited time and resources. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Dr. Pani, because it is about sustainability as well. Because when we first design the nutrition sentinel surveillance, we talk with UNICEF, and UNICEF say that of course they cannot provide the support to the nutrition center for endlessly. So they are going to provide the support for the first couple of years, so that we know what should be done. And then we have to find ways to make them sustainable. And as you correctly mentioned, we need to have a proper system in place to collect the data. And that is actually in line with the approach of the donor, is to have a system in place so that it can be, the data can be collected sustainably and almost free of charge. Because in Vietnam, because the system has been, put in place, and so when they collect the data, nowadays in Vietnam, they don't have to spend, any budget at all, almost any budget at all. So we need to find a way to make sure that this can be collected sustainably and, in the most economically effective way. And we did receive some suggestions from Nippon project team as well on how to collect the data information, and how can we improve the data collection as in our survey as well as in DHIS. So thank you very much for the suggestion. Yes, also thank you very much from me as well. Any other questions from our participants? Hello. My name, I'm from DRI, from MPI, Ministry of Planning and Investment. Allow me to share my thoughts on this a little bit. First of all, congratulations for the team who did this survey. I would like to share a few things from the survey that from what I've known, I learned that you have changed some of the villages in your survey, but if you change the villages too frequently, it might affect the averages for the first and second round data. And the second one, I would like to propose that you divide them between different regions. For example, northern, central, and southern region to see if there is any change, because when we collect, we also collect from different regions. So we want to see the change in the region. That would be more interesting, because if we have only one number that represents the entire country, we don't see if there is any improvement in certain region or not. And if we have those data, it would be very interesting for our research and other research, and also would be interesting for Nippon team as well. Thank you. Thank you very much for the suggestions. We will now use this data, and we will share this data with Nippon so that you can include them in the Nippon database. We'll ask our expert to help with that. One more thing, allow me to share with you. In the past, when we talk with our experts, we want to use just one village or the same village to compare the first and second round of data. But when the children, grows up and move, that's why we have a drop in the number of children. So that's why we have to change to some other villages, but still there are at the same district. So we ask our expert, and it does not impact the results as much. And in some villages where the children, we don't have enough children for that villages, we also had to move them, but we had checked that it will not impact the data, because they are still from the same district. I saw Dr. Khamphanthong joining us. I was wondering if Dr. Khamphanthong has anything to share with us. Do you have any thoughts on this, Dr. Khamphanthong? Maybe Dr. Khamphanthong has some connection issue, so we cannot get a hold of him yet. Dr. Khamphanthong, can you hear us? Or any provinces who have worked with us for this NSS, do you have any suggestions for our future improvements? Is that all? I don't have any, I don't see or hear any questions. If there is no question, Dr. Souphaxay or Dr. Bunyod, would you like to summarize the result? Dr. Bunyod has now gone to another meeting. So Souphaxay, can you conclude? If there's no more question, I would like to, acknowledge the suggestion, and we will take that into consideration for improvement for future studies. And I would like to once again thank you everyone for joining us today to listen to the nutrition sentinel surveillance of the 2020 of the first round of 2023. I also will share with you the link of the pamphlet and the data for these studies, so you can further study the results and scrutinize some data. And I look forward to sharing the result of the second round of 2023 with you in November for a nutrition sentinel surveillance. And that would conclude our presentation today. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you, Dr. Souphaxay. The presentation slide today can be downloaded from RNCBA Laos, and the links which will be provided. And for next month, we will be inviting professors from Indonesian University, and this professor would be talking to us about nutrition in school. So if you are interested, please join us. This will be conducted every first Wednesday of each month. So once again, thank you everyone for joining us today, and see you next month. Thank you everyone. Thank you. Thank you everyone. Thank you, the interpreter.